Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Dad Hab Live. My name is Joe Masiri. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. Today, we have a very special guest with us. Obviously, you know we talk a lot about physical fitness. We talk a lot about mental fitness. And then, obviously, the third part that we like to talk about here at the Dad Habit is financial fitness. And today we have a great guest to speak with us a little bit about that. He is the co-founder, along with his son, which I love, of Black Wall Streeter Consultation Services, and also Junior Wall Streeters, Inc., a nonprofit arm of the organization. We really appreciate having Kevon Chisolm with us today. Kevon, thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I want to jump right in here. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you and your son started the organization.
Okay, so my full-time gig right now, I'm an attorney, so I'm a trademark attorney. So that's what I do full-time. Well, actually, yeah, full-time, and then a part-time, two part-time jobs. So uh, June actually will be 3 years. 3 years ago, I went to a conference, an investment club conference, and I, while at the conference, it was just not many African Americans in the room. So I left that conference, came home, and developed a business plan um, to help others build wealth through investment clubs. And Kamari was there with me from day one, and I enrolled him in a stock portfolio camp to prepare him for our presentations to introduce others to investment clubs. So our primary focus is decreasing the wealth gap between African Americans, disadvantaged groups, underrepresented groups. I mean, there's so many terminologies out there, and whites, and through financial education. And Kamari is sort of like our spokesperson, sort of there with me. When we started the business, he was 11, and I wanted him to be a part of the business and to join me. So the primary purpose is to inspire other kids to
I
to
love
want to
that.
learn, yeah, to get involved, and also to give him a chance to see how business works, how it from ground up. I mean, he can learn from my failures and successes. So
Listen, it's great when we can learn from our own mistakes. It's even better when we can learn from other people's mistakes. So I appreciate that.
yeah.
So I want to talk about that a little bit. What are some of the things that you wanted to teach him about financial literacy? And you said you enrolled him in a camp at a young age. How did that come about, and where did you find that camp? I didn't even realize some of those resources were out there for kids this young.
Yeah, I found the camp. I'm always looking for. Actually, I read an article in Forbes magazine. I'm always looking for opportunities to sort of broaden his knowledge, his horizon. We sent him to a yoga camp 2 summers ago. Then that same summer, sent him to a chess camp. But yeah, so this stock portfolio camp, it was a nice distance from us. It was in a pretty wealthy neighborhood. It was about 45 minutes away from us.
Okay.
So I found it in an article in a magazine. It was describing it, and so I enrolled him in it. It was an introduction to stock portfolio. It was called a stock portfolio, introduction to stock portfolios, I guess. And so we enrolled him in the camp, and it was a tough go. I mean, I wanted a little bit more. I remember picking him up the first couple of days, and he was like bragging about breaking his kid's ankles in basketball terminology on the basketball court, and I'm like, this camp costs quite a bit of money. You talking about basketball? um,
Right.
yeah. So, but after that, and I was not happy, to be honest. So because there were no real takeaways. Like I had to reinforce a lot of the information. So from that point on, I thought I could do better. So I started working with him one on one. But his real interest peaked in this, and this was great timing for him and us. Is that he watched a YouTube video, and these kids watch these YouTube videos, and he saw this one of the persons he was watching driving a Maserati or
Hmm.
Lamborghini, something where well above our budget, right? But he asked me if I could buy him that car, once he get old enough to drive. I mean, he's serious. He's 11 years old. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so I said, I won't buy the car for you, but I'll teach you to invest in the stock market. And maybe when you're old enough or beyond that, you'll have some money that you can put towards it. And
Right.
so right there, that like could have got him, and he was really excited about learning about investing.
I love it. I love it. So I want to start with dads first, and you as a father. What are some of the most important things that you think about when it comes to investing, and what's some advice that you give to new dads when it comes to investing that they should be looking at in terms of their own financial fitness?
Well, yeah, that's a that's a very a good question. So as a dad, I think the most important thing we as fathers, we have to be honest with ourselves, and this is a very difficult issue for a lot of fathers that I talk with, and that's one is admitting that you yourself are financially illiterate in many
Mm,
cases. And I find dads they won't accept that or they don't acknowledge that, and they're not willing to help their kids that way because they don't know they need to help their kids. Some is just they don't know, right?
right.
But I try to tell fathers like, look, and for example, I talked to a good friend of mine, and he thought a couple weeks ago he thought the stock market was a scam, and
Hmm.
yeah, so he's not in a position to honestly help his child, right? His children. He has a couple. If he doesn't know, if he believes that, right? From a financial perspective. So I try to encourage them if they're do better for your children, and that's what we trying to do. Like we my wife and I grew up in financially illiterate households, and that's our one of our main goals when we is to prevent Kamari from um, having following that growing up in that same type of background.
Right.
And so I want to encourage dads, if you're not, try to do something different by your children. And we have some, I mean, we have some wonderful dads in our camp last year. I mean, I had a dad from California call up. It's like, listen, I know my daughter need this. I can't afford it. This is what I can afford. Can she go? Yes, please send your
Wow.
daughter. Yeah. I mean, and he's been sending her we have once a month we meet with our kids, and he's been making sure she goes because he
I
knows he
love
doesn't have
that.
the
Can I
knowledge.
tell you something? Kudos to you because and kudos to that father for reaching out because I feel like so many times that we don't ask, right? We just see something and look at it as a barrier to entry and we don't ask. And I think that especially with your mission behind why you started your organization, I think that is fantastic that you're helping empower the next generation and other dads. And also, the fact that he was realizing where he and she were at when it came to that financial literacy. So I love that. That's fantastic there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So are dads receptive to this? Because I mean, speaking for myself here, I grew up in a house and a family where it was a little bit taboo to talk about money. And I've been trying to break that cycle. And honestly, money has been one of the biggest and if not only stressors in my life, thank goodness. I have my health and my family is safe and healthy and we're provided for in that sense. But money has always been a source of stress. And I think it is for so many people. And so people don't like to talk about it. How do you break that cycle?
Yeah, the problem that problem that we see resonate in our community is that people feel that since they don't have money, there's no need to talk about it. And
Mm,
I don't believe that. I believe that especially with our kids, someday they're going to go to college, they're going to have money. So we need to give them the financial knowledge now, right? So we just start off with basic stuff, basic financial literacy, which is banking. I mean, a high percentage of African Americans don't have banking accounts. I mean, just basic banking accounts, and
wow.
so we try to overcome that to say, teach your kid about what is a banking account, what is a checking, what is a saving account, how to budget money, right? I think that is a major problem. We don't know how to, and we this wasn't taught to us, right? So we don't know how to budget. Now, like so again, like so, and I teach Kamari from personal experience, right? Like so, when I was in college, I got into debt, so I had bad credit. So I can teach him that. Listen, this is how you get bad credit by
Mm,
doing doing things like this, which was co-signing for a relative, and which was my downfall. But again, so I sit down, every couple months I go over my budget with Kamar. Listen, this is what it is. This is I receive my paycheck. These are our expenses. So, and it rubs off, right? I remember he saw me. I was about to make a purchase, and he whispered in my ear. He's like, "Dad, I thought you're supposed to use cash to make purchases, not credit
Huh.
cards." I don't say, "Boy, get out my business."
I love it.
So it rubs off.
He's listening.
So
Yeah, it shows he's listening
yeah,
to you.
he's listening. So I think it's taboo because we don't have, right, and so we don't think it's necessary. But I also explained to him, like, we just enrolled him in he plays baseball, so he plays travel baseball. He's really good, but I show him that and it's very expensive, that we are able to pay for some of those is from the stock market, our stock market investments.
Hmm.
So I show him this. This is how you make money. My salary is not enough, so we have to do other things, which is investing in the stock market. So we try to um, give him the opportunity to learn firsthand on the job, so to say.
All right, so let me pause there for a second and ask you this, because you mentioned that so many of these dads and so many people just in general lack that financial literacy, right? That they are financially illiterate. So before you go to invest, what do you need to do? What do you recommend to have your finances in order before you start investing? Because as we all know, investing does involve risk.
Oh, I love that question. I love that question. And we do not, and people have, I do not, I'm very serious about this. I do not, we do not teach investing. I do not encourage people to invest until they have an emergency plan, an
Mm,
emergency fund, rather. And people like to come into our program and just want to take the investing. I had a kid just wanted to take cryptocurrency, and I was like, first, are you financially literate? An emergency fund is absolutely mandatory in our whatever we do. And why? Because sometimes we don't know what that is, right? First, we need to know, like, you need to have 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside.
mm,
So in an emergency, you can afford to pay your rent, or get new tires on your car or whatever. So that is required. And also,
right.
people, to understand how the stock market work, and this happened with one of our teachers. He talks about, he's invested in the stock market and his car broke down, so he had to sell those investments at a loss.
Jeez.
So yeah, so you so pe- and so we try, we would let people know that when you're investing in the stock market, it's long term. This is not short term. So, and you do not invest in the stock market with money you cannot stand to lose. If you need that money, you don't need to be investing in the stock market. So
Right.
if you can afford to invest $50 a month, do 50, save 50 at a month, then wait to invest in a year, because you never know what is going to go on with the stock market. It could be up one day, down the next.
And I feel like we heard about this when you talk about the emergency fund. I feel like during the last presidential election, it became an issue where people were talking about how few people couldn't afford, you use the tire example, to replace the tires on their car if they needed to. And then we talk about what that ripple effect is, and just them getting to work then and earning that income and making sure, that their kids can get to school. So having that emergency fund, and we know so many people don't have it, which is why if they're already talking to you about investing, they need to pump the brakes a little bit to go with the car pun a little bit more there. So
Right, right.
I love that. Another thing that I think a lot of people deal with is credit cards, right? And how that relationship with credit cards. You mentioned the example of your son saying that you were paying for something with a credit card. So how do you advise people when it comes to that sort of, to buying on credit?
So, in our summer camp, we teach that. We talk to them about understanding credit rating, and how it works, how looking at different credit cards, different credit card statements, and offers, the interest rates. We teach them about the interest rates.
Mm,
So it all depends on your financial situation, right? I mean, if you know that you can't pay that bill off at the end of the month, then you shouldn't really be using the credit card. You should be using cash, if possible, or just try to use credit cards mainly for emergency purchases. I, for one, I like the rewards that come with credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
But there's very since college, there's very few times that I don't pay off my credit card bill in full at the end of the month because of the interest rates. The interest rates are really high. So
Right.
we encourage people to use credit cards and for emergency expenses if possible. And again, this is something I had to learn the hard way. When I went to college over 20 years ago, within a month I had three credit cards,
Wow.
and yeah, I had three. And the first credit card was American Express. And back then, if you got an American Express, you could go like get any department store credit card. So I
Yep.
went straight to Macy's and I shopped like it was no tomorrow.
Yeah.
It was no tomorrow. It was like, whoa, I can't. I mean, it was just really crazy. And
You know,
I
it's
did not
funny
pay
because
off my
I'm
credit.
thinking back to, sorry to interrupt there, but I'm thinking back to my college experience. I feel like when I first got to campus, there was, and you were inundated with credit card application offers, right? Like they know that you don't know anything about your money. And so they want to give you as much of it to be irresponsible with it as you can.
Yeah, yeah, they were right there. They had the table, so just giving, and I was just taking, right? So,
Yep.
and I'll never forget. So it took me 4 years to pay off that Macy's bill and the interest rates and everything. And I did not make my money off of Macy's until I graduated from college, several years, and I invested in the Macy's stock, and I
Mm.
made the money back. That wasn't my intention to make the money back because Macy's was a good stock at the time, but I was able to make the $500 that I had in interest rates, finance charges to pay with my initial credit card.
Yeah, I love that though. That is, I think so many people, if you can use a credit card and make it work for you with those rewards, then it does have those benefits. But you have to make sure that you're not letting things slip so that you're not paying those interest rates because they expect you to do that, right? Like they expect
Right.
you to miss those payments so that they can collect their interest rates and they can make their money. It is fascinating. I'm curious in terms of the way, we spoke a little bit about new dads. Obviously, you said your son is how old now? He's 14?
He's 14, yes.
14. So thinking back, if you can, to when he was first born, is there anything you did or wish you had done now in retrospect when it comes to setting him and your family up financially, whether it was investing in something then or something you've invested in since?
Yeah. So one of the first, so I remember this. He was 6 months old when we did this. We opened him a 529 plan, college savings plan,
Mm.
and we did that really early on. And this is for those who don't know, it's just a college saving plan. We just started putting. I think I opened it with $250, and one thing my goal at the time was that at least he would have money to go to college with. Again, unlike my wife and I, who did not have anything when we left to go to college to help us. So that was my primary goal. Now I will admit, he's 14 now. I was still a little bit on the financial illiterate side myself then, but I knew that was one thing that we needed to do as a family. So if I could think back then, I probably would have tried to get more education, right?
Mm.
To educate myself about some of these things. I just knew enough, a little bit, nothing compared to what I know now, since we've had him. And I made some mistakes, but that's one thing as a dad I did. I knew that I wanted him to have something for college, and we started that within 6 months when he was born.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about your program for a second because you mentioned these camps that you put on. Can you talk about some of the offerings that you have and how you are educating people about financial literacy?
Yeah, we started that last summer was our first summer. Junior was our first summer. Junior Wall Streeters empowering youth with financial wellness. Today's investors started yesterday, and as we talk about dads and to make the transition to youth, we start off talking about dads. So we started the youth component because we felt like a lot of adults was just not interested in learning about the stock market, was not learning about investing. So I felt like, okay, if the adults don't want it, let's give it to their kids.
Huh.
And we had a, oh yeah, I mean that's just really where it went for us. I mean, we had to pivot, right? Because we wouldn't have still been in business if we would have just
Right.
been just focusing on adults. And it could have been our, our plan, our model and all this and that. And but but anyway, we found a great deal of adults that were interested in their kids um, being financially literate.
I want to stop you there for a second because I think this is so important and it speaks to the mission statement that we have here at the Dad Habit too, right? I think that so many fathers and parents in general, they sacrifice themselves, right, for their children. Once you become a parent, you have this idea of, okay, everything now is about my child. And so we maybe don't take the time to educate ourselves about our own financial literacy, but we want better for our children. We don't take the time to eat right for ourselves, but we want our kids to eat right. We don't take the time to exercise for ourselves, but we want our kids to exercise. And the thing that I think that so many parents miss, and I think there comes a certain degree of feeling selfish, right? That if I'm going to take the time to exercise, and that means I'm putting aside my children and my family during that time. And people want to avoid that selfish feeling that comes along with it. But our kids, like you said, they're watching us. And so if you're not being financially literate, if you're running up your credit card bills, then they're learning from that. Whether we want them to or not, they are seeing and they're absorbing that at least to a certain degree. And if you're stressed about your finances, if you're stressed about your health and wellness, then it's going to impact your family and your ability to speak with and deal with your family. And I think that's one of the things that I want to stress, because I think, like you said, so many parents and so many adults were hesitant or not as receptive to take their own financial literacy into their own hands. I think sometimes they feel like it's too late. It's not, and our kids are learning from it. So if you would do it for your kids and you want it for your kids, then live it for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm putting that out there. So sorry to go on my soapbox for a second, but let me give it back to you. So how have the kids received it as compared to the adults?
No, no, I think that's an excellent point, by the way. And last year we tried something different. We tried to have financial literacy courses for kids and their parents.
Together.
And yeah, we did.
Love it.
And I want to try it again. And we had about three families. I was looking, it wasn't really great numbers, but and we had like a mother and a son in the class learning together. And I thought that was just a beautiful thing, man. And I want to try it again to see if we can get more participation in that. Families learning together, right? So the kids, I mean, it's just the kids. We've had great responses, right? So we added two sessions. Last year was our first session. We had over 100 campers. We had two
Love it.
sessions last year. We had a financial literacy and investing camp. It's 2 weeks. That's our basic camp this year. We added two more. We added four more, and some of the parents wanted more math, right? So we added advanced stock analysis, and that class is actually being taught by a PhD student at Clemson.
I love
And
it.
yeah, he's added some math, boy. There's some algebra in there. There's models and everything, right? And then we also added introduction to real estate investing. We're going to teach the kids about like how to invest in the real estate market, how to buy a home, what the paperwork you need to do. Again, that goes back to financial literacy because, you need to have good credit to buy a home, right?
Right.
That's an American dream for many of us is buying our own homes. Okay. So if you learn early on, you need to have good credit, then you won't hopefully run into some of the same problem as some of us adults have, right? And then we're trying to catch us up as a community too. So we're offering a camp on Forex and crypto. So one week will be on Forex and the last week will be on crypto. Just an introduction, so we can just know this terminology that we see on the news, so we can kind of sort of introduce our youth to that. And the long-term goal is to use this knowledge, use these resources when they graduate from college or get a job, they'll sign up for a 401 plan. There's a high percentage of us that have 401 plans at our job, but we don't participate because we don't know what it is.
Right. Absolutely. I'm curious because we're talking about what's the average age of the kids that are participating in these classes? Because I know a lot of them, I mean, if we're talking about your son, might be too young to even take advantage of some of the things that you're teaching them right now. So I'm curious how those things resonate with the children that you're teaching.
Yeah, we start at 12, right? but some of
Okay.
our best students last year, three of our top students were 11.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. I mean, this just kind of blew me away. I mean, I didn't even know one little girl from California was 11, and because her mom, right, she came in one day, for example, talking about penny stocks. We didn't even talk about penny stocks. So that was
Okay.
her mom telling her. Her mom was telling her to ask us like with these questions, and I found out later, her mom was telling us that. So right, it does not. But what we try to do, and it's a challenge, but it's my goal. This is my goal is so after camp, we meet with the kids and we have an alumni component, Junior Wall Street alumni, right? So we meet with them once a month to go over this material. To each month we'll discuss a new topic. Like this month, we're going to discuss dividends. Like
Okay.
so, just to kind of go making sure whenever the information is applicable, they're using it. Like budgeting, you can always use. Some of the kids get allowance, so it's like, okay, do you remember the budgeting that we discussed last summer? So you're right. It's some of it for some of the kids is far away, but if we keep repeating the information to like in our monthly sessions, I think that will make a difference.
I love it. Yeah. And, I think so many times, too, kids want to do what they can't. So, I mean, you think about with the negative things like alcohol, they can't have it until they're 21 and then they want to have it younger. If you tell them that they can't buy real estate at a young age, all of a sudden maybe they start thinking, hey, I got to buy real estate. How am I going to do this? And move them in a
Yeah,
positive direction doing that.
yeah, yeah.
I love that idea. So let me ask you about your business partner here and why you wanted to partner with your son. How is that relationship going? Because we all know that business relationships sometimes are like any other relationship in life. There's a lot of give and take. How is it partnering with your son on the business?
It's challenging at times, because he's only 11. Right? I mean, he started at 11. He's 14, and I'll be very honest. I mean, listen. I mean, his thing is video games and baseball. That's
Okay.
his primary. That's his primary focus. But so what we have to do is I have to try to um, sort of cater the information to him on one hand. For example, like since he likes PlayStation, let's tell him, okay, Kamari, let's not only buy the PlayStation video game, but let's look at investing in PlayStation, right?
Mm,
And 2 weeks ago, I said, Kamari, okay, it's time for you to buy a stock that gives out dividends. So I let him decide, and he went researching, and he came back and he chose Target. We were in Target a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even think that he would be okay. We're in Target. Let me go and look at their stocks. Target gives pretty nice dividends, and so he decided to invest in Target. So he doesn't have a whole lot of money. These are from chores. So again, sometimes people think that you have to have a whole lot of money to invest in the stock market. But as a kid, I mean, he had um what do you have, $500, and he invested that in the stock market. So but some like and what I try to do with him, for example, like 2 years ago, he won a speech contest, right? And so he won $250. So I said,
awesome.
Kamari, yeah. So I said, Kamari, if you invest at $250 in the stock market, I'll double it. It took him a week to decide that. I'm telling my wife, I'm giving him an additional 250. She's like, well, he's only 12. I'm like,
But listen, but
this.
wait. You just said so many adults don't even invest in their 401 plans at their office when there's a company match. So adults don't learn that lesson yet. You're teaching
Right,
it to them at a young age.
exactly. That's just a good point. Very good point. And I'm like, okay, I'll let him take his time because he's like, well, I don't know if I want to buy a video game, this and that or whatever. But he decided, yeah, Dad, okay, I'll take the 250. I'll invest it. So then I gave him another $50. So I was like, okay, great decision, Kamar. And the thing about it is, though, we buy everything for him. So
Mm,
I'm thinking like it should be an easy decision, but it was his money.
right.
So whatever he wanted to decide, I was gonna let him do with it. What he
I'm
wanted.
curious. I'm curious if he's aware of that too, right? And that you buy everything for him, and maybe him wanting to buy his own video game was part of that independence and wanted to be proud that he bought that game for himself too, because I'm sure that that's part of it.
That you are absolutely right. That is
Yeah.
what it was, and my wife brought that to my attention. She said that he just wanted to buy his own. He wanted to buy his own game with his own money. And I was like, okay, I'll
Yeah.
respect that. Let him make that decision.
Well, either way, he's choosing between, he's either showing a good example for himself, wanting to take ownership and responsibility for his own entertainment purchases, or he's choosing between a really good investment where he's getting a great return on his money. So he's choosing between two tough decisions. I can understand there. I played video games growing up as well, so I get it.
Yeah, yeah. But just to add on what you like with him, so it's very good because he's interested and he's more willing to help other kids. Like he
Mm,
teaches kids doing some of the workshops that I have. He teaches adults too, like how to track their stocks. And he shows them, gives them his tips on what he does and choosing a stock. And I think when he can help others, when kids come up to him and they want to ask him questions specifically, that motivates him. So, and that helps our business.
that's awesome.
To be honest. So yeah, it is challenging, because I can't rely on him, because he has to go to bed or whatever. But it's a joy, it's a joy to work with him and to know that he is going to pass this on to someone else, and hopefully if he has kids, to his own family, and that's what brings us joy.
I love it. And I love the fact that you're teaching your son and speaking to kids on a level that they're understanding, using things that they are interested in to help them understand the financial aspect that goes along with it. You mentioned the video games. Are there other aspects or examples that come to mind of things you use that seem to relate really well with the kids? Because I know parents are always trying to figure out how to get their kids to listen to some things, and I'm sure there are some examples that have helped you.
Oh, I love that question. One of the things he does when he talk, so since he's a baseball player, he talks about how he thinks of when he thinks about investing in the stock market, and he loves Steph Curry as a basketball player. So he'll say something like investing in a particular stock that is very aggressive is like hitting going shooting a 3 pointer. You
Mm.
might make it, you might not. Same thing with swinging. You strike out. A bad investment is a strikeout. So he tries to use sort of sports ingrained when he does a presentation to kind of relate to kids. Hitting a home run is a grand slam. You made a good investment choice. So some of the kids can really relate to that, and that kind of motivates them. And we talks about Nike, and a lot of kids like LeBron and Under Armour, kids like Steph Curry. So being able to sort of bring the stock market to products sort of like they're already using, so to say, like, because we want to try to encourage our campers to be investors more so than consumers.
Mm.
So like rather than buying Nike all the time, why not buy a share in Nike?
I love
Or
it.
do both, so he can really help with that, because he'll say that, I will buy Under Armour because I'm a big Steph Curry fan, but I also looked at Under Armour stock as a possible purchase.
That's awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. So let me ask you this. Where can people find more information if they want to participate in these camps? Are they in person? Are they virtual right now?
Yeah, this summer again, we are virtual, and you can go to our website, www.thebblackwallstreeter.com, and there's a Junior Wall Streeter link. You can actually even make a donation to our nonprofit to sponsor a camper. Our motto is, many mottos is, regardless of someone's financial situation, they deserve a financial education. So
Mm,
we give our scholarships and with the donations. So we don't want to turn anyone away that's interested in obtaining this financial knowledge.
awesome. Kevon, before I let you go today, we always end these podcasts, these live streams, because we are the Dad Habit. We focus on small habit changes that can lead to big results. So I ask all of my guests, what is one small habit that you have in your life that you have seen big results from that you think other people would benefit from as well?
What's a good? It's a tough one. What have I seen benefited? Um,
It can be anything, from financial literacy, from your relationship with your family or your son. What's the one thing that you're like, I do this on a regular basis and it makes me happy or has, helped us in some way?
I think just telling my son that that I love him. I
Mm,
mean, I try to do that as often as I can. Just tell him, and because I didn't receive that, and I know how it feels. So I just try to let him know that he's human, I'm human, and I love him. I mean, I just try to do that as often as possible. Um, you know, and through the good or the bad of our relationship, that I love him regardless, and I'm going to be there for him either way.
Through the bull markets and the bear markets.
Bull markets and bear markets, yes. That's a
Kevon
great
Chisolm,
way to
man,
put it.
thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it. I loved our conversation today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it as well. You got some very good questions, tough
Awesome.
questions.
And everybody listening, again, you can check them out. It's Black Wall Streeter Consultation Services. You can search there, or Junior Wall Streeters. Again, it's a nonprofit organization, so if you want to make a donation to help a child gain some financial literacy, go ahead and do that. Obviously, we said it earlier, I'll say it again, there are always risks that are associated with investing, so make sure you've got your emergency funds and your financial situation in order before you go down that investing route there. For everybody listening, we really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. And always remember, you can make a big impact with a small habit change. Thanks for listening to this episode of Dad Hab Live.